My name is Esquire Banks. I am a truth teller. I am a scholar. I'm an MSW. I'm a visual artist. And I'm a former teacher.
And Mr. Banks, how long have you been all of this?
Well, I've been a visual artist for most of my life, probably like most artists. Um, I've been an MSW for about 9 years, and I taught for about 19.
Thank you so much. Did you teach at the K through 12 level or all post-secondary or all of the above?
All of the above.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you so
that,
much. And so well, also, since you've done all of the above and done a lot of this for all of your life, can you tell us a little bit more about your early life, where you were born, educated, people who inspired you, those kinds of
all kind
things?
of things. Well,
Yes.
I'll do it like this. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. My parents' name was John and Eunice Banks. My father, he's an evangelist preacher, Church of God in Christ, big national brother for. He just passed away a couple of years. Both of them passed away about 2 years ago, about a week apart, which is kind of interesting. Um, I'm a proud graduate of John F. Kennedy High School. Uh, I am a graduate of Cleveland Institute of Art. I have 3 masters, one from Case Western Reserve and 2 from Cleveland State. So those are the educational factors. Um, I'm proud of all of them. I'm humble about it because um, a lot of people don't get an opportunity to either start or finish college, especially finish. There's 8 million stories to the how and why. Um, I was blessed because I got scholarships for all of them. So I'm real blessed with that. Didn't have to pay a dime. So thankful and appreciative to the Lord and those who provided the opportunity for me to, receive my higher education.
All right, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the Church of God in
In Christ.
Christ,
Mm-hmm. Koji.
acronym COGIC.
Koji. Oh, you know about
Okay.
Koji? A
Well,
little bit?
yes, I
No?
went to college too. And I like to study, thank you for asking me, although I'm supposed to ask the questions.
Oh,
But I like to study religion and spirituality in the history of Africa and the
okay.
diaspora.
Okay.
I'm the Baptist church lady.
Ah,
So,
okay.
yeah, but we needed to give that study a home in the academy.
Yeah.
Kojic and Baptist
Baptists, they all flow
in
together.
history.
Yeah, in
It's
history
a
across the board.
historian.
I'm not going to get into, I'm very historian about quite a few things, probably most things. Um, so I know the transition from slavery to present day and how it affected us from how I say, the brown paper bag tests, and being separated and how each religion had its start and etc. Even Jehovah Witnesses and etc. Which is well. So in my heart and my mind, um, the Bible never changes, never. What we have to deal with is how you perceive it, how you're led by it, and remember that at the end of the day, again, it never changes.
Well, Mr. Banks, I must say that you're the fifth narrator to share uh, their life story with us for this project. So thank you again for saying yes to Miss Stacy Brisker, who is a genius librarian who works here at the People's University. I wanted to say that on the record. And we have a genius videographer working with us in the person of Catherine Young. So it's quite a team that we've assembled for this project. And I want the world to know that when they watch and listen to this
Oh
recording.
yes.
But you are the first, however, the fifth narrator, but the first one to introduce religion and spirituality as someone who's a creative person. So can we stay with that theme for just a few
Sure.
moments? Because I'm always interested in knowing when I speak with a creative genius where their inspiration comes from. And so would you mind sharing a little bit about the source of your inspiration as an artist and a
Okay.
teacher?
Um, First of all, I've been told, and it's accurate, that I have images of religion in my work. I have sexuality in my work. I have culture, our culture, in my work. My work is about my race, for those who may not be black. And I use the word black instead of African American or colored or Negro because it's the only title of ourselves given to us, by us, for us. Light and dark, good and evil. They go hand in hand because without one, you don't have the other. That way you have Satan, you got God. But in that perspective, a lot of people, the word I'm gonna use right now is testimony. People who have been in any form of church, you don't even have to go to church, they understand what testimony means. We're going through a test, a trial and tribulation. And at the end, we are at a positive note because in my thought process, the Lord got us through. You don't have to agree with me, I'm not asking you to, but that's just how I feel. When I do my artwork, it is light and dark. Well, I say I'm a truth teller because there are things in our storyline historically that people don't want to talk about the test part. They just want to talk about the moaning part, the glory, and it doesn't work like that. I never draw anything, and in my image is just all good or all bad, because life is not all good or all bad. We have them both. That balance is what makes us as people, no matter what the color, that balance is what makes me as an artist respect our culture, our religion, etc. And again, and the work is what I call the unspoken truth and the conventional truth. See, the unspoken truth is the part that nobody want to talk about, but everybody know about. The conventional is the one that we just say out loud and be nice and polite and with it, and that's what it does. So I'm telling it all. So whether you like it or not, it's still the truth. Everybody can't handle the truth, but it is the truth. Mm-hmm. I want to talk a little bit about art history in reference to us. Our work historically, when it started, from once we came to America, white Americans drew us, painted us in a cartoon-like fashion. Big nose, big lips. It was all the same. There was no difference, no variation. I'm just saying, keep it real. That's the nigga right there. And that was it. Because we were stripped of our culture and we were learning whatever it is that was placed upon us in America, we started off doing like the white man did, which is draw us in a cartoon fashion. Disrespectful fashion, but that's all they knew. As time progressed, we had artists like Charles White who did portraitures. That brother could draw some portraits, but that's all he did was portraitures. I'm not knocking it, that's where he was, he had skills, I love him. He was the first black artist I was introduced to when I was a kid and probably even in high school. Now, after Charles White, we did something that I respect and disrespect all at the same time. But and I'm gonna tell you about it, but that's what we call progression of growth in our society as a culture and etc. So well, what am I referring to? The artists, even with the Harlem Renaissance, did abstractions and some parts of realism, but they did not capture our faces, our hairstyles. Even up through like the 70s, it was still basically the same. Now, what a lot of times as, decades go by and artists improve, what they end up doing was showing us in action. Like, let's say you're playing bid whist, that's a card game, or spades, so you got that action. bam. You see that and everybody knows. They're playing cards. I want to whist, I want to spade, but they playing cards. And you see the excitement in the figures. You'll see the cloth sometimes and sometimes the hairstyle. But you know what they didn't show? Our faces. We have 1,001 different faces for a variety of reasons. Sometimes because of slave master injected, sometimes because we created, you know. But we got a lot of different faces per generation. We got a lot of different hairstyles, haircuts, high top fade. I'm gonna go way back a little bit. High top fades and etc. Ball fade. You know, the sisters had, like y'all a little bit more special than we are because y'all had you had the natural afros, and then you started doing the braids, then you started doing the weave and the wigs, and then the dreadlocks. But it was okay because it's still part of our culture, and it changed. Y'all got a lot more hair than most of us, so you know we're limited. However, that still would include wear the faces. So when I do my artwork, I show the pain, the passion, the glory, the attitude, the faces across the board. I want everybody to see who we are. We're not in a tunnel vision as we have been perceived and put out there. We're wider than that, of course. That's like if you go from one career to another. I did. I do I statement. I went from teaching to social work. When I was a teacher, I knew a little bit about social work. I was tunnel vision. I had a thought process like most Americans. This is what this is, etc. I get into social work. Boy, that vision opened up wide. I said, I didn't know about that. They didn't tell me about this. Same with people who are in vice versa role. They have no idea what teaching is really like and what goes in because they have a tunnel vision until you either get into it or have a loved one or somebody who's part of it, and then you see. So when I'm creating my work, I feel like I have to and I'm obligated to tell our story. All those 8 million stories that some people we need to know about, it's not guided, it's not guided by white America. Even right now in present day format, I always think back when I was in high school and watched the soap operas, and black actors and actors would say when they did some interviews, we tell the writers and the directors and the producers that's not how a black person would respond, and they said that's how we want them to respond. They're creating black for what's comfortable for them versus what's black and what's real for us, which will bring me to 2 different artists for me. Norman Rockwell, who's a white artist for those who don't know who he is, he's famous. Gordon Parks. Now I'm gonna do Norman Rockwell first. So you talking about all this blackness, how did that come apart? And what I'm gonna do is Norman Rockwell. This is a book full of images of what I call, I'm gonna get one picture for you. I should have got it before. But most of them are the same. Candid white America. Candid shots. For those who know what candid means, spur of the moment. You know, most white artists during that time period, they weren't candid. They were almost like pre-drawn, pre-picked out. When you saw this, I was like, oh, I learned that we all have a culture, and we all as human beings, families and etc. and activities. Their activity is same but different from our activity. We're not showing our activities very seldom. I looked at him when I was at CIA. I was like, wow. It was like this bell that went off. I say, I like you showing your culture. I said, I need to do that. I need to do the hair. I mean, all these things that started rolling. But where the story at? What's different and the same about a white culture and a black culture? Who's gonna tell the truth? Then comes, is he here? Gordon Parks. Oh my God. Photography and film. He has so many pictures of who and what we are during the time period where he was at. I wasn't part of that time period, but I touch and feel that time period. You cannot look at his work. I'm just do the photography and not be touched. You cannot look at his work and say, that's not what my white American is doing for us. Wait a minute, I know that person. I've been there. I live in it. I'm living that life. Oh, wait, okay. And you get this pride and sadness or whatever he's saying. It says, now that's black. Not white, that's black. And they're candid, but they're not candid. They're real. If you black, you like, Norman Rockwell is candid. I'm cool, we see white all the time. Gordon Parks, he telling a story. He's picking out another story. Everybody who was black, look at his work, past or present, can say, I remember my grandmama said that. I remember when if they lived it, I was like, hey, it's different, but it's the same. Okay. And then there are other artists that excel on my own personal skill set. I call myself a photorealist because I work from photos. I come up with my concepts, photograph the people, work around it, and I draw in such a realistic fashion, it looks like a photo in 3 dimensions. Now, why is that important? Because technically, in my mind, I'm a Renaissance man. I know I am. It ain't even, I draw, I paint, I sculpt. I learned all these things from my certain professors at my college, even the ones that I wasn't, you know how you take a little bit from everybody, but certain ones are a much bigger part of the pie. I'm going to name these 2 names. It's important. Well, I'm going to name 3 names. Richard Fiorelli, Gary Schumer, and Bob Palmer, all professors at Cleveland Institute of Art. They shaped us and molded us, made us know details matter. And I always say that's my first name. Details matter. So when I'm drawing, boom, I'm putting every detail in and where it falls. You know, I'm doing a show, details matter. I'm looking at the room, what's supposed to happen in the room, you judge your space, all of that. I don't have draw. I completely draw. I don't, now I can do abstraction. I don't do it though. I mean, you know, I had a period where you learn all the paint. I choose black and white. Can I paint? I can paint. You get to choose what you want to do. But before you choose, you need to be skilled at everything you're doing, period. Then you can choose and say, that's it. Yeah, I can look at other artists and say, oh, I don't trust your work, I don't like you because you want to say I'm doing abstraction, but you can't draw real. What is abstraction? Abstraction is taking from the real. How can you take from the real if you can't draw the real? I'm just saying.
Mr. Banks, may I ask you a question,
Yes,
please?
ma'am, please.
With the book that you were holding up, just for the record.
Gordon Parks?
Yes.
Yes.
And that is, what is the title of the book? You know, I recognize the image as being Langston Hughes.
The New Tide Early Works.
Okay. And why that book? I'm asking because you can hold up whatever you want, but are you especially attracted to the work that Mr. Parks produced in that period in the 1940s, or just Gordon Parks?
I love his work, period. The photos gave me, and others who look at it, the insight of our black culture. The realism, remember, the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. He ain't cutting nothing out, he ain't putting no shame. This is a story. His films, though, see, film can do something that photos can't do. They can direct and show life and how somebody feels, how they're treated, mistreated, and give a true, with him, a true insight of what we did and what we're going through. Now, I mentioned him because he was, to me, the start of it all. I love the 2 other famous filmmakers, John Singleton and Spike Lee. And they're both at the same level in a lot of ways. Spike came first. Spike put out stuff about our culture that white America wasn't doing, and neither was black America. He got, how can I, he basically, at points of his career, was either shunned by us, denied Grammys and stuff. I mean, not Grammys, I'm sorry, Oscars and etc. Even the actors. But they did that because they wasn't trying to see or hear the truth. When he did, he had a scene in the movie where he had the black girls and the light-skinned girls and the dark-skinned girls. Now, you rolling with it because it's part of the movie in college and etc. But that wasn't the issue. When he made that, the back behind the scenes, he put the light-skinned girls in a real nice hotel. Took the dark-skinned girls and put them in a shabby hotel. So when they got together, it was an energy of dislike and hate because you like skin. We've been taught to hate each other based on skin color. But they wasn't talking about that or showing that until Spike Lee's movies came out and talked about what happened behind the scene, how he got that effect. He does a lot of things like that. John Singleton, who came after, I'm not gonna say took it to another level, but took another area of doing the same thing. Boys in the Hood and etc. You know, that's really to me like a testimony for real, because in that movie you had a variety of intellectual men, gang type men, college young boys, athletes, and he showed the evolution of what happens in our culture in a poor neighborhood. Everybody who's poor don't stay poor. Everybody who's poor is not unintelligent. What he did was say, look, he's an athlete and he worked hard and he gets in school. Unfortunately, he's growing up in an environment where gangs are for real, not something off a news flash. And that young potential of that black man, young boy / man, gets murdered in the end. You had his friend who goes to college. His father was super intelligent, was trying to enlighten other brothers and sisters about our neighborhoods and our lives and how we can affect it and how white America is affecting it and how you can block it, stop it, or change. Who ever thought about seeing that or hearing that in a mass media format? It didn't happen until John Singleton put out Boys in the Hood. Now, I'm going to say this because it was important. I was teaching at the time, and I was in the teacher's lounge, and there must have been about 5 or 6 black women, educated black women, who didn't want to see that. They said, even though and y'all have to excuse my language a little, even though you shit, but that don't mean we want to smell like shit, so don't show that shit. Literally. I was like, wait a minute. You must have missed something in there, because if you shit, that means you're getting a relief. What he showed was, again, that's that testimony again. If we show all these different levels of what can be, what is, and how we got out and survived, why don't you want to talk about that? Why don't you want to keep it real? Unspoken truth, they know about it. Conventional truth, we don't let it go. So when I'm doing my artwork, I'm not letting you escape from that. I'm gonna give you one quickie. As artists, as Americans, as black Americans, one of the things that comes up when we talk about erotic art. Now, for public library, public museum, art museum, historically, they want to separate what they think is pornography. I'm okay with that. Because I feel like I know the line, but I know it can be pushed. But here's what people don't want to talk about. Now, you can have a baby and pregnant. You can have the little children running around, and that's fine. But nobody wants to talk about how that baby was made. It's like, okay, maybe the baby that man and that woman might have liked S&M. That man and that woman might just like regular sex. That man and woman, whatever their proclivity is what it is. But y'all don't want to see that. You just want to see, there go the little baby. She's pregnant. Oh, they little children, they running around. Wait a minute, hold tight. I'm showing you how that little baby was made. And it's not, and sometimes it's erotic. It's all get out. And sometimes it's plain and simple. It's all get out. But guess what? It's the truth. It ain't even unspoken. You just don't want to speak it. But in my artwork, I'm going to speak it for you, whether you like it or not. I'm telling the truth. That's why I tell you I'm a truth teller, because that's what I do. That's what needs to be said and done. When I listened to another former classmate, he reminded me of something that I kind of sort of forgot. As artists, black artists in particular, first of all, I know we're all intelligent. I mean, for the most part, we are very intelligent. You have to, my father used to always say, you got to be 10 times better than your white counterpart to be considered equal. I like to lost my mind. I was a kid. What do you mean be considered? I can be 10 times better, and that's all I get is considered equal. It's like, yep, you're black in America, son. But you need to be the best of the best, so do what you got to do, and that's just the way it is. Life ain't fair. Couldn't bring that phrase up too much with my father, because didn't I tell you life ain't fair? So stop it. And so you sucked it up and do what you had to do. When you're around other artists, and I'm going to say black artists in this particular case, we know those stories. We understand about being a dreamer. You don't have to be you can be a dreamer at an adult, and me, dream maker. Regular society doesn't want you to dream. They'll tell you, oh, that's for kids, let it go. Why do I need to let it go? As long as I'm handling my business, I'm paying my bills, why do I have to give up my dream? I'm not. I'll juggle that bad boy all day long, because that's what we're supposed to do.
In the first half of our conversation, you mentioned that you see yourself as a Renaissance man.
Yes.
And then you talked also about the importance of history and saying there's a lot of history out there that is reflected in art, because that's what art does. It records history. But I want to ask you about a specific era in art history.
Okay.
The one that usually gets at least a footnote in the history textbooks, whether it's, African American history, but the Harlem Renaissance period in our history.
I think it's a footnote.
It's more than a footnote.
It is worthy of more than a footnote.
Absolutely, yes.
But I don't believe it's a footnote, because, again, we are ignored. Mm-hmm. Our greatness is ignored, even by our people sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, but it's a great time period. Music-wise, visual arts-wise, that was the time period, in my personal opinion, that began to separate how we drew as white people to express who we are as black people. Mm-hmm. And it was wonderful, like especially the music. I mean, it was all, it was like we all came together, not only the artists, but our society, our people. They for a short period of time, they were all into the art, the music, the visual, everything. And I say for a short period of time, because like most things, it don't last long, but that was a great time period. Okay. In the art, Harlem Renaissance.
Would you agree then that the Harlem Renaissance and the jazz age are pretty much occurring at the same time? When you say the music, you're thinking jazz.
Yeah, I'm talking about jazz. Yes,
okay.
Ma'am. Yes.
So I wanted to ask a question about an essay by Langston Hughes that was published in 1926. And I've been quoting and paraphrasing and talking about this essay for more than a quarter of a century.
Wow.
Ask any of my former students.
Okay.
But it's Langston Hughes, the Negro artist and the racial mountain. So he starts by telling this story about, he knew a poet once who said, I want to be a poet, not a Negro poet. And beyond that, Langston said he believed the gentleman wanted to write like a white poet. And beyond that, he suggested he probably wanted to be white. And Langston, my favorite poet. Okay. So I'm biased, right? This is an editorial. And then there is a question. Langston said he believed that beyond that, he wanted to be white. And he felt sorry for the boy, because nobody Anybody can be a great artist if he's running away spiritually from himself.
Correct.
But this is the mountain that stands in front of the Negro in America. This tendency toward whiteness. You want to be as little Negro as possible and as much as of an American or as white as you possibly can be. How do you deal with that? At the end, he said, this is the part I was always quoting. We younger Negro artists who create now intend to express our individual dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. And if white people are pleased, we are glad. And if they are not, it doesn't matter. Because we know we are beautiful and ugly too.
We've learned that.
Well, I'll finish the quote. And then he said to black people who have been taught to hate themselves, if colored people are pleased, we are glad. And if they are not, their displeasure doesn't matter either, because we build our temples. We build our temples for tomorrow as strong as we know how. And we stand on top of that racial mountain free within ourselves. So again, close quote or end of paraphrase. And all of that won't be included in your story, but just
okay. No,
Langston Hughes, 1920s, and that Renaissance, that rebirth, you know, people self-consciously celebrating blackness, and it didn't last. But what's your take on that? You know, where are we today, you know, as far as artistic expression and liberation associated with it? Where are we today on that continuum? You know, have we lost ground? Are we moving in the right direction, in your opinion? What does it mean to be a black artist
Let me tell you
in 2025?
I'm going to tell you that. First of all, I'm going to do a quick analogy to what you talked about. Doug Williams, first black quarterback who won the Super Bowl. They asked him, how does it feel to be a black quarterback in the Super Bowl? How does it feel to be a black quarterback? Period. And like, how do I respond to that? Because all I am is a quarterback. You put the color in front, but I don't think of me as a black quarterback. Now, he also did understand that the weight of our race was on his shoulder because he was the first black quarterback in the Super Bowl. First black quarterback who spanked that behind of the most favorite white quarterback, which was John Elway at the time. But we carry that weight no matter, because the thought process, I'm just a quarterback. It ain't got nothing to do with color. But I know I carry the weight of my people because the racism that exists in this country. He talked about how they called him every word, you know, sent hate mail to him, kill him, you know. So how can you not think about that? As an artist, I create. And I don't care how it sounds. I'm going to just be honest. I could care less what white America thinks. I'm not a fool to not think that there's some pointed things that they have that I need. But when it comes to my work, I'm not drawing for you. And actually, I'm not even drawing for us. I am drawing to establish history. I am drawing to say, I'm getting out the story. Again, it's a repeated storyline about us and our people. Because it's not talked about, drawn about, played about, nowhere near enough. That's my J-O-B, literally. Now, in reference to our society it's 2025. Let's do Black Lives Matter. Statistically, during that time period, cops killing blacks were at a lower rate than historically prior before. Say, what? Yes. They've been doing that to us since we've been on this continent. The difference came because we had technology. So we could get it on our camera. We could send and make it viral. When cops were saying, no, they had a gun, somebody captured it that you're planting the gun. In the past, you had to believe the cops, even though we didn't believe the cops, because there was no visual evidence. My father used to always talk about if it ain't on camera, it ain't on video, on film, or on recorded some way, it don't exist. That's husband, wife, that's cops and citizens. That's just the way it is. So I start off with the Black Lives Matter because what it should have shown everybody in America, and especially us, racism still exists at a high level. It didn't change. It didn't go anywhere. What white America had a problem with is that they couldn't pin down one leader to stop a movement. See, before we had Malcolm and Martin, a couple other people in between. We assassinated them. We got rid of them. So the movement dissipated, died, and then disappeared. With Black Lives Matter, there was no one leader. You're fighting technology. So that made a difference in how we combat racism. I got a nephew. He was 19. Now you see how articulate I am and passionate I am about racism and us and etc. He my nephew. I'm taking him to get a car. His first car. You want to do that one too. Got to go to Parma. Now I know people don't know about. It's a very white suburbanite racist suburb. Historically, still is. He trying to tell me that racism really don't exist anymore. We drive, and I'm in my BMW and blah, blah, blah. No good, he got that out of his mouth, and I get pulled over. Not for speeding, because I'm driving a sports car BMW. He started asking me questions. I said, and I responded, well, why are you asking me this question? Is it my car? How do you get this car? Blah, blah, blah. Where are you headed? And my nephew started to tell him, I said, close your mouth. Don't say nothing. I let him go through his routines because I didn't really answer most of the questions. I said, cool, and we drove. It was about maybe 1,000 feet from the car dealership. We didn't know because we was trying to find it. And the cop followed us, then passed us, then waited outside the dealership just to see if we were going there. I looked at him. I ain't say nothing to my nephew because there was another racial incident inside the dealership. I didn't say nothing. As soon as we got out and drove down the street, I said, oh, nephew, no racism in America, right? He dropped his head. I didn't bash him or nothing. I wanted him to recognize it. I'm glad that incident happened just because he was in an environment where racism didn't rear its ugly head like that. Mm-hmm. He was went to a private school, then went to Maple Heights where, you have a mixture of black and whites. And, it was a good year. I mean, because we had periods about that, but it was a good year for him and, on his way out. So he really thought that. I don't know how. So this changed his mind across the board. And then we had a long talk afterwards. I gave him some time, So I gave that analogy and an example of myself and my nephew because I feel more concerned for young black boys and men. When they tell us, oh, you get stopped, put your hand on the wheel and da-da-da-da-da, and don't say nothing, don't do nothing. They did that, and cops still shot them. What do you do? What is your fear? I'm a grown man, and I'm cool as a fan most of the time. But when I hear the siren roll, my heart beat a little faster because I don't know where they going, what they gonna do. Is it me? Is it somebody else? Is somebody gonna get killed or somebody shot? I'm not stupid. I'm black and I live in America. I know those things are possible. Good, bad, and indifferent. So has it changed? The answer is no. Is it colored a little bit better on some days? Yes. But it still exists. And so but I'm saying that to say though, if you are a person of color and you're creating your mindset of how to be as a person, put your color behind you. You need the education, get the education. My father emphasized that. That's your armor, that's your shield, that's your sword. Find a way to be an entrepreneur. That still means education, whether a lot of them don't realize that. Okay, do what you gotta do. But just as Robert mentioned, you have to be, and I say this, true to yourself. Know yourself, learn your craft, all of those things. And then you can attack, if you're going to, the problem the best way you can. You can speak out the best way you can. You can create the best way you can. But don't do it because you're trying. As an artist, I don't make my art to please you. Because otherwise, I would never create anything. Because I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this. Why don't you do this? I got a couple of friends who say, why can't you just draw something nice, landscape of people always being happy? I say, first of all, you know where I live. Did I live around a place where it was, all pretty and green? The answer was no. I said, okay, let me go one better again. Have we lived in an environment or a society where everything is all pretty and nice? Good? No. It wasn't all bad either. No. So why in the world would I create something that's only a half truth? I don't do that. I'm not going to lay down like that. I'd rather not do any art at all if that was the case. I wouldn't be a person at all if I only have to tell the half truth. My father was, and this is why I was glad that I had a father who was, on point, because he gave me a lot of lessons in between. He said, son, you are very articulate. You know how to speak. However, you're going to have to choose what battles you're going to have to fight. You can be right and it'll cost you. You can be wrong and it'll cost you. You can be right and it don't cost you. Are you trying to win that battle or are you trying to win the war? Is it about your integrity? What is it about? I can't tell you that, son, but I can tell you you're going to have to choose. I got most of it at first. I know, but I was like, when he told me that, I was probably about like 13. I wasn't even 14, probably close to it. But as I got older, ooh, man, yeah, I had a mouth. And yeah, I spoke up. I was like, just like my name, the knight in shining armor. That's what Esquire is, Bam. I fought for other people. I fought for myself. I articulate it. I go through the process. Do what you, but I didn't fight everybody's battle. I didn't fight every battle or every war. I chose what worked for me. I also try to teach others the exact same lesson my father said. You're going to have to choose. You're going to have to stick up. I can't do it for you. I can't be there for you. I'm going to be going to somewhere. What are you going to do? And in reference to the art, you're going to have to choose what you want to draw, paint, design, film, photograph, whatever your medium is, you're going to have to choose it. Hopefully you are choosing something that represents you, something that represents your culture, and representing a message. I can't even get on you if you don't do that, but I think you'll be a much more complete and whole person and an artist if you do so.
Well, thank you very much for helping, to put what's happening in this historical moment within that larger context of Black history in America, from the Renaissance period to the present.
I'm sorry?
From the Harlem Renaissance
Right, yeah,
period
it didn't,
to the
there were a
present.
lot of positive things from the Harlem Renaissance, but like I said, as wonderful as that was, it was short. Just like historically, when I learned about Black Wall Street and the bank, I was a youngster, and then I got to be a young adult. I had no concept about that time period. You know why? One, it wasn't taught in school, and two, when they destroyed it, they tried to destroy every record, everything about that black people got together and ran a city, was important to the country, but you were, or we were, as they considered, were niggas, and we're gonna get wiped out. That's just too much money, too much power, you know. Period. We used to be Republicans. We used to, we can go way back. We used to be, and had a major vote, and it worked for a while. It hasn't worked in forever, and but I'm not doing politics, but I'm just speaking truth and fact of what is, what was, and what can you do if you can do anything. Somehow, I don't have to answer for you. That's an individual, personal thing. But I can say whatever it is, choose it well and choose it wisely.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, I want to thank you also for, again, for mentioning your cultural experiences that are rooted in Black worship traditions of the Kojic. May I say denomination or
Yeah,
religion in that faith community, the Church of God in Christ. But I'm wondering also geographically where your family's roots are. Are you a native Clevelander, or did your parents migrate to this part of the country from another part of the country?
Look, my parents are from Cleveland, Ohio. My grandparents, I can't tell you. I just assumed that they were from Cleveland too, but they certainly cook like they're from the South. So I don't know about that part. But my parents, my aunts and uncle from Cleveland.
All right. And then the follow-up question is, knowing that, in urban areas like metropolitan Cleveland, Ohio, and or greater Cleveland, I would include Parma
Okay.
as part of greater Cleveland too.
It is.
There are problems with racism and discrimination.
Sure is.
Why have you, as an artist, chosen to remain in the city of Cleveland?
That's actually kind of simple. I'm an opportunist. Always have been. You present the right opportunity where I can make money, make money, make a difference, being an example too. And in Cleveland, I was able to receive all of those things in abundance. Like I told you earlier, I have 3 masters and a bachelor. I didn't have to pay one dime. If you know about Case Western Reserve, it's one of the most expensive colleges in the country, bar none. It's also one of the elitist colleges in the country. Some consider Ivy League type college. It is. Full college ride. By me staying in Cleveland, I had to worry about no living place, somewhere to live. I didn't have to, because I had home here. Cleveland State, 2 masters there. Man, opportunity. Free is my favorite 4-letter word. School was easy for me across the board. So if you're going to pay for me to go and see getting those degrees one at a time, while I was teaching, it increased my pay scale. You get paid as a teacher based on experience, time served, and degrees. And so they kept giving me the opportunity. I kept making that money. I kept being able to give back to my students and even the people where I grew up at as I got older, had a whole nother level of responsibility. I didn't even know it at first. Oh, no, you can't say that right now. He a teacher. He teach my kid. He was the same brother I did some dirt with when I was young and da-da-da-da-da. We cool. I ain't judging you or nobody. But they were looking out for me because I represented something different. And I respect it later. It took a minute. But I got it. Cleveland just afforded me great opportunity. I'm going to say this in reference to the opportunity of all of those degrees. Probably the one I most appreciate is Cleveland Institute of Art. It helped shape and mold me mentally I mean, like I got forged in in a metal shop where you got the iron and it sharpened up everything. You know, I I didn't say I didn't have some racial issues there because I did, but I had people who you learn how to put salt, a grain of salt over here. You know that you got to represent over there. You got to do all these other things. People lean on you, and like rain, I rose to the top. I will always rise to the top. I'm a phoenix. From the ashes I rise. Always. Not because of me, because of God. I don't care what religion it is, what spiritual format. You get to choose. But there's a higher power. Period. Now I'm not gonna do religion with nobody about that, spirituality. But for me personally, I already know. It's God all day long. I'm not telling you how to study. I'm just saying it's a higher power. That's on you as an individual. Now, if you was an atheist, we would have a battle right about now. But at the end, I'm not even going to battle about that, but so long, because you got to live with it, not me.
Now, I thank you again for all of the time you've given so far. But there's a question that I've asked of all of the other narrators, and it's this, because your art is very complex, complicated, detailed, and now that I've had an opportunity to look at it, just wondering, is there one word that describes your art? If you had only one word to share with somebody, to say, this is what that art is all about, what would that word be?
The word would be simply truth. That's the one word, truth. I've explained to you earlier the two kinds of truth that I've spoken to in conventions, but at the end of the day, put it under one umbrella, it's the truth. That's what my art represents for me. And every time I create a piece, a little more truth about our people, a little bit more truth, sometimes even about myself, not so much always in the work, but how I have to push that envelope. And I want to say this about that truth. I know people are going to look at my work and be amazed at how well I draw. But at the same time, I feel like my work, I know, creates emotions and questions. It's controversial, not by my choice. But what I would love, I know it'll never happen, is everybody can look at my work and take upon it some emotional piece for themselves or something that would make them cry or feel something touching. So that inspires me to draw those stories and them faces and all that much more. So it's about the truth, if that's the one word.
And then as we approach the end of our time together this afternoon, I would also like to ask in closing, my last question, is there anything else that you would like to say about your work and why you make art?
Oh, yes. Yes, there is. I want you to remember that greatness cannot be silenced and magic cannot be held. So when you look at my work in amazement, and you will, I want you to remember that my work is blessed by God and inspired by you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the opening of the exhibition that you've agreed to be part of,
Yes, ma'am.
with a dash of flair.
Don't always show that.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. August 5th, 2025 will be a red letter date in American art history.
I'm here to help enlighten those who will see the work. Here to help my friend Miss Stacy Brisker and yourself and anybody else who wants to uh, see what we do, who we're about. And if nothing else, hopefully with everybody who is involved, that it touches their heart their mind and a loved one.